We know that the United States has recovered some of these craft, and that there have been efforts to um, understand the technology and back engineer them. There have also been some claims that, certain abduction events or sightings have been perpetrated by the United States military and not by, the whatever extraterrestrials or other beings. What are your thoughts on that? Is there any potential truth to that?
Wow. I'm probably not ready to go there yet. Let me let me share this with you. Any government who conducts experiments on its people without their knowledge, without their permission, is the enemy. And now let me be very clear with that. Any government, and by the way, we have done that in the past as a government. My country here has done that. We had things like the MK Ultra experiments where we provided LSD unknowingly to people, and some of them actually died as a result, going into a psychotic state. The Tuskegee experiments, where we allowed the people, namely African Americans, to to suffer from syphilis to its natural end, which is death. We allowed that to happen. We actually, even though we had a cure for it, we allowed these fellow Americans to die simply in the name of science. Um, that is repulsive. It is repugnant, and that is, dare I say, when governments do that, they need to be fearful of something much greater. Because if the people, once the people find out, it's like waking, it's like it's like being stuck in a telephone booth with a sleeping gorilla. That gorilla's sleeping, but make no mistake, when the people find out, and i.e. in this analogy, the people are the gorilla, they will rip you apart. They will. This only works. This idea of democracy in our government because people have faith and confidence in its institutions. The moment that the government deceives and betrays the American trust, then it's got a very significant issue on its hand because if people know how to deal with that, and there's a history of human beings dealing with situations like that. And so it terrifies me. I don't want to ever think my government could or would do that to other human beings, but we have in the past. So we can't discount it entirely. I like to think that there's no one that I know in the government that would ever do that. I certainly would never do that. It's anti-American. It's anti-democracy, and I would never, if I was even privy to something like that, I wouldn't tolerate it. If you think I'm being loud now by blowing the whistle on UAPs, you just wait. If it turns out that our government has been doing that to other people. Now, with that said, um, I can't entirely discount it, and there's reasons for that, which at some point I may be prepared to address. Um, I there's information that is forthcoming, I think, in the not too distant future that may substantiate that maybe there were elements in our government that were doing things that were were not very ethical. And one thing is to an experiment on a human being if they allow it and they volunteer for it. But if you do it with people unsuspecting or worse with children, then I've got a significant issue with that. There are, if you look at Army regulations, even on the Army side of the Department of Defense, we have procedures for doing intelligence work, and one of those is what they call questionable intelligence activities involving human experimentation as procedure 13 violation. And there's prohibitions for doing that. You can't do it because why? Well, in the past we did, and we got caught and we got in trouble for it. Right? When I say we, not me, I wasn't part of those, but organizations that I belonged to in the past, they did those type of things, and so Congress passed laws saying you can't do this anymore. Um, my hope is that that's the case, that no one is coloring outside the lines and doing some sort of human experimentation. Um, again, I know I'm not answering your question directly because you're talking about, the term psionics and CE5 and all these other terms, people, words du jour, names du jour that we give to things that people are trying to do. But the government has a long history of doing things and being involved in this topic, particularly UAP. And I wouldn't be overly surprised if in the future we learn that, yeah, maybe we were involved in doing some things that were ethically not very good. Um, I might be able to talk more about that later in the future.
Given this history of morally shady things being done by the government, what can you say to people who might suspect that the information that is being revealed now by officials such as yourself and others are part of a sort of PSYOP to kind of persuade the public to believe certain things?
That's so silly. I mean, these are people who've never this is coming from people who've never been to a single meeting I've had on the Hill, although they claim that to have access. This is coming from people who have never had any meetings in the Pentagon or at the CIA that I was at. These are people that are just spewing nonsense. They don't understand that all of us, it is illegal to conduct a psychological operation on the American people. That's it, flat. There's no way around it. You cannot do that. And anybody who says that, it's just a reflexive argument someone's saying because I think that probably my colleagues and myself are probably interfering with their cottage industry. And so they're immediately saying, no, no, I don't believe those guys. Well, okay, but proof is in the pudding. I can't tell you the last time I saw one of those folks with me in Washington, D.C. Um, you know, I don't. And by the way, going up there and having a single meeting with somebody doesn't really count. Um, it's not disinformation. It's not psychological operations. People say, "Oh, well, he's a counterintelligence agent." Do you know what counterintelligence even means? Because obviously you don't, because that's a totally different discipline. If you want to do psychological operations, that is a PSYOP background. That is not counterintelligence. It's not even remotely close. Psychological operations is usually performed by civil affairs, right? Not counterintelligence. Counterintelligence is very simple. It's knowing what the enemy knows about yourself. Most people say, oh, they think they know what counterintelligence is. They don't. First, to understand what we do, people need to understand what CI is, counterintelligence, and then understand what human intelligence is, understand what psychological operations is, understand what misinformation is, right? You can do that on an enemy. You can't do that with the American people. It's called propaganda. So my response would be, look, trying to be polite here. It's complete and utter nonsense. And these are the same people that continue to say it since the day I came out in 2017 and my colleagues. Everything I've said has come to fruition. Now, with that said, if I can help my government level with the American people, that's what I want to do. Absolutely. My job isn't to satisfy the idle curiosity of people. And, oh, Lou, you need to do more for us. First of all, I don't work for you. You don't pay my mortgage and my bills, right? I'm doing this because I believe in what I'm doing, and I want truth and transparency with the government, with our citizens. But this isn't a misinformation or a psychological operation. Most people don't even know what psyops even is. They watch television and they think they know what psyops is. There's legal definitions for all this. Words matter, and people throw this around. I heard another podcast just recently, where someone was accusing me of being a disinformation agent. I mean, dude, that's libel. That's slander. And people like that need to be careful because they may find themselves in some serious legal trouble. Because you better prove it. If you call me a disinformation agent, you better prove it. You better show somewhere in my training where I was trained in denial and deception and to conduct propaganda against the American people. And if you can't, you better shut up. So these are some of my concerns with people just having the ability to spew off anything that they want. I'm very calculated in what I say and how I say it. And a lot of these people who are hucksters who've been taking advantage of people for years and years, I think they know that the jig is up. I think they know that they better start producing some real results and not just tossing flares out of an airplane or something like that. You better produce real results that are repeatable and can be demonstrated, not have people sign NDAs because you want to keep everything secret and make a buck for yourself. I disagree with that. I think it's abhorrent. I think it's disgusting behavior. And then to turn around and call somebody else, accuse somebody else as a disinformation agent when my track record speaks for itself. I've I've been truthful with the American people since day one. I still have my top secret security clearance, and there's a reason for that because I'm not doing anything questionable. I'm not doing anything to go against the rule of law of this country. And so it frustrates me because there's a lot of ignorant people out there, and when they hear these people just spouting nonsense out, over the airwaves, people don't know the difference. They just assume, oh, that sounds logical. Well, do a little research and realize it's not. So, anyways, rather than going back for a tit for tat with these individuals, I don't even mention their names because they're not worth it to me. A lot of these people are I consider like carnival barkers and hucksters, and I just don't think about it. I just keep on with my mission, and the truth always prevails. So